Chris Coons was elected to the U.S. Senate in 2010. He's running now for a full 6-year term. As part of WHYY's coverage of Decision 2014, we have Chris Coons in studio with us. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Mark.
We're going to go back in time a little bit to a pitch you made to voters 4 years ago. Let's take a look.
I want to bring some fresh energy, a new way of doing things to Washington, the values and experience that allowed me to balance budgets, help the private sector create jobs, and deliver valued services for our community. Washington's broken, and it needs new folks with new values and the willingness to challenge some of the old ways of doing things. I think I'm the leader that Delaware needs in the U.S. Senate for the future.
And that was Chris Coons 4 years ago. So 4 years later, do you think you've accomplished your goal of bringing those new ideas to the Senate?
Well, Mark, there's a number of things that I've done differently than other senators or than predecessors. For example, one of the things I've done is lead job fairs. That's not a common activity for U.S. senators to convene employers from the private sector and public sector, nonprofit sector. But along with Congressman Carney and Tom Carper, our congressman and my senior senator, our staffs have pulled together 25 different job fairs up and down the state, most recently just down the street here at the Del Tech Wilmington campus and out at the Christiana Mall. We've done 7 of them for veterans. The rest have been just free and open to the public. And through those 25 job fairs, we've connected thousands of Delawareans with employers ready and willing to hire. I've also led an initiative within the Democratic caucus called Manufacturing Jobs for America, but worked very hard to reach across the aisle and to get the good ideas that Democrats have brought to the table to strengthen manufacturing, co-sponsored by bipartisan teams of Democrats and Republicans. A number of them have gone on to become law, and I think have shown a positive path forward for what we can do in strengthening workforce skills, in strengthening financing and the access to finance for early stage manufacturing companies, and in accessing export markets. So those are 2 quick examples of things I think I've done differently.
You mentioned bipartisanship. You kind of came into office as the Tea Party wave was really crashing on Washington, and we've seen a lot of gridlock, a lot of things not getting done as a result of that. How have you fought against that to try to get things accomplished? And is it something you actively are trying to break?
Well, I hear from Delawareans every month up and down the state that they want me to compromise, to work across the aisle. And so from my first year as a senator, I've built personal friendships with senators like Marco Rubio of Florida, who was elected the same time I was. I'd say the Tea Party helped elect both of us, frankly, in his case and mine. And Senator Rubio and I have now co-sponsored 5 different bills together that touch on a very wide range of areas, from education to manufacturing to immigration. The last bill I introduced before we went out of session was with Kelly Ayotte, a Republican senator, conservative senator from New Hampshire, who was also elected with me in 2010. This is on manufacturing skills. It's creating a sort of race to the shop competition nationally. And I think it's a good idea. It's a bipartisan idea. We work together in a way that would shape and focus the bill and make it more successful. So in a whole range of different bills, whether it's on clean energy financing or on helping early stage companies get access to the capital markets, I've worked with Republicans in the Senate and the House. I've worked between the House and Senate. I've worked with the administration to try and move forward. There is a lot of gridlock. It has been very frustrating at times, and changing the larger system is more than one senator can do. But I've contributed as best I can a voice that I think reflects Delaware's values, which are values that seek responsible, balanced compromise.
Is a lot of this a reaction to President Obama, and do you think it will take until 2016 for that bigger change in the Senate and larger in Congress?
Likely, yes. Most of the midterm elections across the country where Senate seats are hotly contested, the Republican or the challenger is putting President Obama in all their TV ads, and even though he's not on the ballot in 2014, they're making it a referendum on either the Affordable Care Act or Dodd-Frank or other actions by the administration. So I do think a lot of the pushback in 2010 by the Tea Party was directed against the Obama administration, and that's the same in the 2014 cycle.
If you are selected by Delaware voters for another term, top 1 or 2 priorities that you'll tackle in term 2 for you?
Well, if I could pick three.
Okay, we'll give you
first
three.
would be continuing to fight for high-quality jobs, in particular manufacturing jobs here in Delaware. Second would be fighting for innovation, for the things that make our country competitive, whether that's investing more in higher education, in public education, in access to quality education. And then third is dealing in a responsible bipartisan way with our budget, with our ongoing deficits. I'm on the Budget Committee. We've made real progress in reducing federal spending and reducing the size of our budget deficits. They've been cut in half over the last 4 years, but there's more difficult work to be done in the months and years ahead.
You've talked a lot about manufacturing so far. With your ideas for more manufacturing here in Delaware and kind of sparking that, what does Delaware job market look like 10 years from now, kind of with those ideas?
Well, today we actually have small and medium manufacturers up and down the state that are hiring, that have vacant positions they're seeking to fill. And if we continue to prioritize manufacturing in terms of what we're teaching kids in schools, what we're doing with our universities to partner with manufacturing, what we're doing nationally in terms of our strategy, and what we're doing in terms of federal promotion, export promotion, and fighting for American inventions and innovation overseas, I think we'll see even more jobs in manufacturing. In the first 10 years of this century, we lost a lot of manufacturing jobs across this country. But in the last 4 years, we've actually grown. The private sector has grown 600,000 manufacturing jobs. I think there's every reason to believe we can continue on that trajectory. Our energy costs are lower. Our total manufacturing costs are lower than they were before, and the productivity of our manufacturing workforce keeps going up. So I'm optimistic that if we work together, if Congress passes a few simple, strong laws and then gets out of the way, that the private sector will continue to invest in the United States and to grow good jobs in Delaware and our region.
What's a bigger priority for you, kind of fixing the immigration issue or reforming the tax code? And can either of those things get done in the near future?
Well, both of those have to happen for the United States to be more competitive. I contributed to the bipartisan immigration reform bill that was passed by the Senate last year. It's a bill that was embraced by a very wide range of groups, from the United States Chamber of Commerce and the National Association of Manufacturers to the AFL-CIO. It had support from across the political spectrum, too. It was principally crafted by a bipartisan group of Republicans and Democrats. Sadly, it hasn't been taken up by the House. I think we have a long-standing challenge to America that we need to strengthen our borders, and we need to provide a predictable and clear pathway for employers and for those who are currently in this country illegally living in the shadows, getting a pathway that allows them to pay a fine, to learn English, and to, after waiting their turn, have an opportunity at legal permanent residency here is absolutely essential. We also need to engage in comprehensive tax reform. We have too many loopholes in our current tax code. It hasn't been comprehensively reformed since 1986. And American businesses and American families spend too much money and time on tax compliance, and we lose too much potential revenue through loopholes that are no longer contributing to our competitiveness. So both of these are big issues. They have to be tackled in a bipartisan way. It's my hope that in 2015, after these elections, the President and Congress will sit down and seriously hammer out compromise bills on both of these topics.
4 years ago, your Senate race was sort of the focal point of a lot of national attention. A little bit different this time around, a little bit of a different campaign.
Somewhat different campaign. I try to focus on the issues. I try to be positive. I will have several candidate forums and debates with my principal opponent, Kevin Wade, the Republican opponent who won a primary in September. Although I'll say his recent public statements are really not of the tone and tenor that I think Delawareans expect. They're a little more like a conservative shock jock radio talk show host than a serious candidate for the Senate. And I'm hopeful that our upcoming candidate forums and debates will be more deliberate and will be more on the issues. And I'm optimistic that folks will get to hear from Mr. Wade and from me real proposals, real ideas for where we'll take America going forward, so that Delaware can have the sort of deliberate electoral season that we've come to expect. 4 years ago was a little unusual. This time, Mr. Wade is a nice person. I've enjoyed meeting him, and I look forward to debating him in the next couple of weeks.
Well, you brought it up. WHYY is joining with WDEL to present the debate among the candidates running for U.S. Senate this year. That will take place at Widener University Law School on October 29th at 8 a.m. Senator Chris Coons, thank you for your time. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Mark.